This is Riccardo from the Rolling Funds. It is well known that underdevelopment leads to government corruption. I know I may appear as too ambitious or pretentious, but let's see some ways to fix it. First of all, what is meant by development? It is a condition in which a population has a sufficient level of well-being to be able to satisfy its own primary needs, which basically are feeding itself, having a house, and wearing. In addition to these, there are other needs, which are less important than the primary ones, but allow the full realization of a person. And these are taking care of oneself, educate oneself, exercising political rights and civil liberties, and living in legality and security. It is important to understand how to classify countries in relation to development. There is this important tool, the Human Development Index, which classifies countries according to 3 dimensions, which are long and healthy life, the level of knowledge, a decent standard of living, by using 3-dimension indexes that are the life expectancy index, the education index, the gross national income index. By using this index, we can easily understand that the world is marked by an evident gap, as you can see in this slide. In the north of the world lives the 23% of the world's population that consumes the 80% of the goods and services of the planet. On the contrary, in the south of the world, we find the 77% of the population, but only 20% of consumption. In the world, 26 men alone possesses the same wealth as the poorest half of the planet, 3.8 billion people. This condition is mainly characterized by low cost of human capital, scarcity of primary goods, high infant mortality, unemployment, illiteracy, and inadequate health care. The causes are many, but we can basically highlight historical causes like colonialism and wars for independence, corruption, capitalism, which means maximizing individual utility, and exploitation by multinationals. Underdevelopment also affects the ease of doing business in a country. There is another fundamental tool which is named ease of doing business that reports some data to understand if it is easy doing business in a country. Take Pakistan as an example. It is of course an underdeveloped country, as its position is 108 in the ranking in the world ranking. And for example, in Pakistan, it was taking 121 days for a business owner to register their property, compared to just 1 day in New Zealand, which was ranked second on the World Bank list. It took 123 days to get a new electric connection. In Korea, it just takes 18 days. If you want to get a construction permit so you could put up a building, in Pakistan it takes 112 days, while in Singapore, which is ranked first, it will only take 26 days. So we can maintain that it is really difficult to do business in Pakistan, and of course firms and companies shouldn't appreciate investments in this country. So finally, I just found some ways to solve these problems. Firstly, it is necessary to make it easier to do business. How to do it? We could use the help of the United Nations and non-profit organizations, which are here to promote development, encouraging local firms, reviewing the criteria by which concessions are granted to multinationals. Secondly, it will be really important to defeat the corruption by investments in innovation. Corporations do not develop because they have reduced corruption. They succeed in reducing corruption only because they have developed. And companies develop through investments in innovation. An impressive example is the case of South Korea, which in the 1950s, South Korea was a very poor and corrupt country. But as soon as companies like Samsung, Kia, and Hyundai invested in innovations that made everything much more accessible to many more people, South Korea finally prospered. By getting rich, the country was able to move from an authoritarian to a democratic government and reinvest in building its institutions. And this was a huge advantage. For example, in 2018, the president of South Korea was sentenced to 25 years in prison for corruption charges. This, many years ago, could never have happened because the country was poor and administered by a dictatorial regime. Finally, of course, I'm not trying to say that these are the most important ways to fix this problem, which of course is really complicated. But I will say that these are the more efficient. Just let's take my lightning talk as an encouragement to start doing business again in these poor countries and help them. Thank you.